Today we're going to be discussing the top 5 money grinding methods in Gran Turismo 7. If you're new to the game, you'll first want to concentrate on the cafe menus. They will kind of walk you through the basics of the game, give you the cars needed to perform most of the menus, and they will also unlock the races needed up to level 39. Beyond that, you can start with this money grinding method, and you don't need to worry about the extra menus. So let's go ahead and get started with number 5. For number 5 on the list, we have the World Series GT Championship. This race is a series of 5 races, which gives you a good variety of some courses that don't normally give you a big payout. The first of the 5 races is Deep Forest Raceway, and this is one of the Gran Turismo fictional tracks that has been in the game for as long as I can remember, and it's got a beautiful layout and some decent hills, so it's good to actually be able to run this course. Each of the 5 races lasts around 12 minutes, so if you're just getting into virtual reality, this is a good way to get your feet wet without committing to a half an hour or an hour on an individual session. The second race you run into in this series is Spa, which is a real course, so it's good to see both a mixture of fictional and actual race courses in this series, and you end up racing against the GT3 cars, so the competition is pretty fierce, but there are a lot of vehicles that are allowed in this session. It's an 800 performance point session, so you can easily find a car that will get you through this course without too much trouble. After Spa, you have Le Mans, which has weather turned on, so you could end up in the wet, so just be prepared to switch out tires and be watching that weather map. Clean racing can be difficult in this series in that bumping other cars or running off the course will both lose you that clean race bonus, but if you lose it for one track, you can still pick it up on some of the other tracks in the series. After Le Mans, you end up at Bathurst or Mount Panorama, which at the end of the race the sun had gone down, so it's something to keep in mind if you do take a car without headlights. I ended up keeping the second place right behind me to light the track, and it worked out alright, but it caught me off guard. The overall victory payouts you get for the first 4 races are $100,000 for a first place and another 50%, bringing it to $150,000 for a clean race. The final race in this series is the Nürburgring, which you end up running 2 laps, and the difficulty of the track actually ends up having the payout at $150,000 just for a normal first place. And then if you do end up getting the clean race bonus, you get an extra bonus on top of that, which brings it to $225,000. At the end of the series, you get a bonus $250,000 for completing the series as well in first place, and that brings the total, if you get clean racing, to $1,075,000 for the overall time invested, which adds up to be right around an hour. This comes out to just under $18,000 per minute for the full hour. I wasn't able to confirm whether or not you get a clean race bonus on top of the $250,000 in the championship bonus, because it's pretty easy to lose that clean race bonus, and in my testing I only got 4 out of 5 clean races per attempt, and I attempted more than once. The reasons I would recommend this race are for people who are just looking for a little bit of variety over the other races that are to come, and for new users to VR, so they're not stuck on the headset for so long, where you can take a break between each of the races and still earn a pretty decent amount for the time invested. But let's go ahead and take a look at number 4. Coming in at 4th place is Sardinia. It's a little bit controversial in that this is the second fastest way per minute to grind credits. The overall race victory when it's clean is at 727,500, but per minute you're looking at 27,980, considering about a 26-minute race. You're racing against GT3 cars, and it's an 800 performance point max, so it gives you a lot of flexibility in some of the higher performance cars. I'm using the Mercedes LM here, but a lot of people end up using the Mazda 787, which is a very quick car and extremely good on gas. So depending on how you actually run these cars, you can actually run them with either a single pit strategy or no pit at all. Whereas the AI is going to pit twice, and that makes for a very easy victory because these cars can overpower the AI and then they're not having to stop as often. There's no weather to contend with here, so that's also why it's very easy. And I've never seen a caution flag on this race, and I believe that would be the only way to lose the clean race bonus. You can bash the cars all you want and you can run off the track, and it doesn't risk losing that bonus, so it's pretty much a sure thing. This is a great place to start grinding credits, but the downside is that ease of victory. So it's pretty easy to get bored because of the lack of the challenge. But it's definitely a good place to start, and let's take a look at what's next. Coming in at third place is Spa, which is a real race course, which gives it a little bit extra credit. And this course ends up having a lot of elevation changes and variety in that it has weather and it's a 1 hour race, which is a big time commitment, and it's a downside of this. But during that 1 hour, they have the time accelerated to simulate a 24-hour period. So you can end up watching the sunset and come back up. And usually during the night, you end up experiencing rainstorms, which keeps the track pretty interesting. This is again using the GT3 cars. So again, you have an 800 performance point option and keeps that same variety for vehicles to be used. The overall payout on Spa is 1.5 million for a clean race, and with it being a 60-minute minimum, you're looking at around 25,000 per minute. Now, you can lose the clean race bonus here by passing under caution, and you will see caution flags from time to time during the rainstorms as the AI can spin out, causing that caution to develop. You do have the option to bash cars and leave the track as much as you need to, so if you go sliding off the course, no big deal. You still have that clean race bonus. The only real downside that I see on this track is, like I said, that 1 hour commitment, as that can be kind of hard to fit into your schedule. But let's go ahead and take a look at number 2. Le Mans has been part of racing since 1923, so I'm very happy that it's part of our grinding session as well, and this comes in at number 2 on the list. Unlike the previous two tracks, this is using GT4 cars and has a 700 performance point limit, so even though the performance points are lower, it actually opens up the door for a lot of vintage race cars and vintage cars in general. So that's something I actually like on this course. Le Mans is a 30-minute timed race with full weather effects. So again, you can lose the clean race bonus if you find yourself in a caution situation and end up passing. But just like the other two tracks, you're able to bash cars and leave the race course without risking that clean race bonus. At the end of the race, you'll end up winning 825,000 for first place, and that gives you about 27,500 per minute if you're crossing the line around 30 minutes. Now, even though the overall commitment time is a lot less than Spa, the individual laps at Le Mans are right around 4 minutes with this class of car. So you've got to pay close attention to the weather and make sure you don't get caught out on slicks when the rain comes. That can lead to a very slippery lap that you're just limping along, and you can end up losing the race just because of that. You also want to kind of pay attention to crossing the finish line. If you've got a good gap built up between the your position and second place, you may want to slow down, otherwise you could add 4 minutes to the total race time. Now that's not a huge problem, but it does affect the efficiency of the credits per minute. Be sure to pause and grab these setups for the final race here, which ends up being the Tokyo 600. Again, this is a fantasy course, but this is based on the Tokyo Expressway, which was famously raced by the Midnight Club and has been a part of Japanese culture ever since. This race can be completed in about 26 minutes and pays out $825,000 for a clean race, but it's much more difficult to get that clean race. My technique is to use intermediate wet tires in the beginning and just try to get in behind Gallo here, and then on the main first lap I don't try to pass him at all. I'm just in traffic and just staying behind him nice and close and giving him enough space to not cause any kind of impacts. Even a light touch against the AI cars can cost you that clean race bonus. There's also a section at the very end, which I'll show you in more detail, in the final hairpin, and if you cross the line near the cones, you'll lose the clean race bonus there as well. So it's crucial to drive this race as cleanly as possible. Now, bouncing off the walls, that's okay. You can even cause damage to the car, no big deal. But if you're able to pull this off, you end up earning 31,730 credits per minute. So it's definitely worth the risk. Now, ever since the 1.31 update, the tire wear is extremely aggressive on this course. So you'll want to set the fuel map to 6 when you're following these cars on these first couple of laps. That helps prevent excessive tire wear on the rear tires. You're not as concerned about the fuel because the cappuccino is going to be doing perfectly fine, but you'll want to keep that extra torque away from the tires. That's the main focus here. Now, when you're coming up to this front stretch, that's where I drop it back to fuel map 1, and this is where I'll pass Gallo. You only get 2 laps out of these tires, so you're going to have to pit frequently while you're waiting for the track to dry. So our focus is not at all about our position in the race at this point. I've even started off slow before and been in 15th place on lap 5. Speaking of lap 5, let's go ahead and skip ahead. So we're coming here now at the end of lap 4. We've gone ahead and switched tires on lap 2, and we're switching again on lap 4. And this time, instead of going from the intermediate wets, we're doing the hard compound racing slicks. This puts us back a little bit into the pack, but again, I've started in this position in 15th place, and it's not at all a problem. We're not really even going to concentrate on passing for this lap. The main thing you're wanting to focus on lap 5 is just sticking to the dry section of the course. Being that we're on racing slicks now, lap 5 and 6 can be a little bit risky if you end up getting into the wet section. The car will slip out from underneath you and you'll end up spinning it. So it's fine if you see a wide open area to pass, but don't feel pressured to do it. You can always just pass on the front stretch, and even if that's the only place you pass at all during the race, it's a pretty easy victory. Part of what makes Tokyo the race that a lot of people go to, even over the fact that it's a good payout, is just the overall challenge. And it's not something that's too difficult once you have that layout set up to where you can expect the race to last more than the first couple of laps. But just knowing you're not going to be in first at the beginning of the race, and that it's going to take you, until lap 6 or 7 to end up seeing the front end. It's once you know that is there, you're a little bit more comfortable to put yourself out there and actually go out and earn the full race. Now, the strategy with the Nismo car is a little bit different. That's a car you're going to end up using a no pit strategy, and the way you do that is you use the setup that I have listed and then just put it on fuel map 6 and run that for right around 8 laps, and you'll want to start working your way towards the front, and the entire pack will at least pit once, and some of them will pit twice. I know Gallo pits twice, so you'll end up getting ahead of them, and you won't be in first until right around lap 10 or 11. At least with the Cappuccino, you're usually there by lap 6, so it's a little bit more comforting, and this is a much quicker car. You used to have to get lucky to get this car in that it takes an engine swap to build it out for this race, but now that you can buy engine swaps, the Cappuccino can be found in used cars as it cycles through, and you can go ahead and purchase the engine swap, and you'll probably be about a $500,000 into this thing by the time it's done. But fully built out, this car will dominate on this track, and I can beat it both with my racing rig and with the controller, so it is doable and fairly comfortably. You just don't want to push on the car too much. If you're just driving the car nice and easy, it'll do its job just fine. Now, once you do find yourself in the lead, the last thing you need to pay attention to is hairpin. Make sure you brake plenty early and don't go over the outer line. By the time you hit the cones, you've already lost the bonus. I've missed the cones before. It's once you hit that line, that clean race bonus is gone. And then just pay attention and don't get too aggressive with the lap traffic, because hitting them will cost you that bonus as well. But do that, and you'll end up getting $825,000 for 26 minutes of work. If you've made it this far, please like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.